continue to cover the two knights defense, in particular the variation that arises after the following moves: knight to g5 and then d5, and black plays pawn to b5, counter-attacking the bishop and trying to distract white from attacking f7. In this video I'll look at the couple of miscellaneous moves, and then I'll move on to bishop b5, which is interesting. Bishop to f1 is the main move, and I will not cover it here. There'll be 2 more videos about that. The other responses are, of course, bishop e2. This is a tame move because black has distracted white from their objective of attacking f7, and white will be successful at hunting down his bishop. The other move is bishop to b3, has the same problem, that black puts the knight in the center and will be able to exchange that bishop either immediately or at his own convenience. And probably it's good to play something like this, and then pawn to a5, and this bishop is misplaced here, so there's nothing really to worry here for black. The attack against f7 has completely failed, the pawn on d5 is weak, and white should be able to recapture it at some point. Sorry, black should be able to recapture it at some point. More interesting is bishop to b5, a natural move. As a downside, the pawn on d5 remains unprotected, and black gets to capture it with the queen, also attacking the bishop and attacking g2. White has 2 main responses. He can either exchange on c6 with tempo, or he can go knight to c3 and develop with tempo. So the downside of exchanging is that the piece that white had already developed now gets exchanged, and black now has 1 pawn less, but he has free diagonals for his bishop, as very often in this line. So if white plays tamely, then he will be underdeveloped and black will have great compensation. For example, something like this. Here black has a typical opportunity. For this variation, he can sacrifice the pawn on f7 again. So he can castle long, and if the pawn is captured, then black has great attacking ideas like this, opening up the queen and the bishop against g2 and against playing for better development. A possible variation might run like this: f3, e2, q1, developing with tempo again, defending the pawn on e2, and then continuing the attack. All of white's problems stem from the fact that his pieces are still in the first rank, while the knight is trapped here and the queen is also not really helping the king at all. Of course, recapturing on g4 is impossible because of checkmate on g2. So if white tries to create a escape square for the king, then black hunts down this rook, and the final straw, the final touch, is not to allow recapture on g4. Black can play this, and now the idea is that if white captures, then this is checkmate. So all in all, this is an easy variation to play for black. Theoretically, it poses no problems, and black just needs to remember that he needs to castle long and play for fast development. Going back to queen to d5, the other option for white is knight to c3. Then black has to take on g2, attacking the knight on g5 and the rook on h1. So the only move is to counterattack and defend the rook with queen to f3. Then black exchanges and defends against the pin. This endgame is fine for black. The material has equalized because black recaptured on g2. Black again has easy development for his pieces. The bishops have open diagonals. His pawn structure is compromised, but so is white's pawn structure in this variation. The game might go like this: castle, bishop to d6, and here black has a good center and good piece development. The pin is slightly annoying, the pin on the knight on c6, but he can actually use it to his advantage if white's careless. If white tries to put pressure on e5 too early, something like this, allows black to attack c2. Again, in this variation, the queen side is not developed for white, and the lines fall the lines play out nicely for black, because again he can abandon f7 ironically, and here there's a lot of pieces hanging here, but the best line is something like this: knight to d7, and then black takes here. Here we have black up an exchange, and he does have some difficulties because the rook on e7 is very active, but with careful play he just brings the knight back out, and then he returns the exchange. So again, in this variation everything is about activity and active piece play. By building a repertoire around this line, you'll be able to focus on those ideas, and this way you can play it, even if sometimes you forget the exact theory, but always playing for active piece play is key. The point here in particular is that after black exchanges and white exchanges, the bishop on c1 is still trapped, and rook e1 is coming inevitably. So black will be up a piece, even though white will be able to snatch up a few pawns, but it's black who will be playing for a win here. To review, after pawn to b5, white has several bishop retreats, but except for bishop f1, which we'll cover later, none of them are dangerous for white. For black, the most interesting one is the most common one is bishop to b5, and then after queen d5, in the case of bishop takes c6, black is going to play for long castle and fast development. In the case of knight to c3, black destabilizes white's pawn structure, and he still has better development, so this endgame is fine for black as well. So there is not much theory to learn, and all in all the moves are pretty simple, but it does require a bit of understanding, which hopefully we have covered enough material here for.